so why isn't it just s minus r? Yeah. Say it again? Yeah, you don't have multiplication here. If you had multiplication, then you could cancel things out. Think about this. If I have 4 minus 7 over 7, can I cancel out these 7s together? Why not? Not only that, yes, and what are you doing when you're canceling out? You are? Yeah, how do you get rid of this? What are you really doing when you cancel this out? What's the shortcut of? You are dividing the numerator and the denominator by 7. Does 7 go into 4 minus 7? No, it doesn't. So here, does 2 go into the whole numerator? No, it does not, you see? And does pi go into the whole numerator? Because that's what you're doing when you're canceling out, right? You're dividing the numerator and the denominator by pi. Does pi go into the whole numerator? No. What about r? Does r go into the whole numerator? No, it doesn't. You see what I mean? If I didn't have this, s minus what? If I didn't have this s right here, then could you cancel it out? Yeah. Then if you didn't have this s right here, then does 2 go into the whole numerator? Yeah. What about pi? Can you divide the whole numerator by pi? What about r? Can you divide the whole? Yes. But because s is there, you can't do that. Does that make sense? Okay, so on the test, this is what I see. People try to cancel things out where they shouldn't and get the whole thing wrong. They do all the right steps, but at the end, they try to cancel things that you can't. Does that make sense? So you have to understand what you're doing. That's a shortcut of really dividing the numerator and denominator by that variable that is common in both, numerator and denominator, right? 2 is not in common on the numerator, is it? It's only common in this monomial, isn't that right? Does that make sense? Yes? Yes? No? Okay, good. All right. So let's then try example 3. Now this example 3, I say solve for h. It's not that hard, but there's a second part of this that is pretty interesting. So go ahead and solve for h first, and I'll tell you what that second part that I want from you is. Okay, go ahead and try solve for h. If I have this now, what do you think I'm going to do to get h by itself? Raise your hand. Somebody that I didn't pick today. Come on, somebody. Vlad. Yeah, just you treat this as if you have some number in front of the x or something. Yeah, you divide by pi r squared. And this is very simple, right? There you go. H is equal, how many people got h equals to v over pi r squared? Very good. And I said this was pretty simple, except now I'm going to ask you to do this. State the restriction. That's what's going to say on your homework tonight. What do you think this means? By the way, like restricted area? What does that mean when they say restriction? Restricted. Can't go there, right? So what do you think I mean by state the restriction on this problem? Is there something that we can't do? Yes, how about Austin?
You can't divide pi r squared for v.
Why not?
Because it doesn't go into it.
No, that's not the reason. Oh, by the way, I like this. Oops. Oh, did I show you? Okay. So, but
Pardon the interruption.
I accidentally showed you some. Okay. Yeah. What do you think? Okay. Good. Okay. So then, what do you think? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Somebody that didn't. Lucia, what do you think I mean by state the restriction on this? Okay. If I have a fraction, Lucia, is there a time when the fraction is undefined? When it's divided by 0, right? And look at, do I have some variables in the denominator? I do, right? Well, pi is 3.14, whatever, right? It goes on forever. So pi is some number. But what about r? What happens if r is 0? Is this function is undefined, right? We can't go there, you see? That's the restriction. So guess what? When they say state the restriction, what do you think the restriction for this formula is? What about what's 0? What's 0? Which variable? R can't be 0 is right. So that's the restriction. Did you all get that? What about v? Isn't v what about v? Could v be 0?
Yes.
Why? Yes, sir?
Because it's not like this.
Yeah, it's not undefined, you see. What's 0 over 5? 0. Is it undefined? No, but what's 5 over 0? That's undefined. So we don't really worry about the numerator's variable. We only care about the variables on the bottom denominator, because we want to make sure that the denominator doesn't go equal to 0. Doesn't that make sense? And pi is like some number. It's a constant number, right? It's between 3.1 and 3.2 somewhere, right? Even though it goes on forever. Anyway, does that make sense? So that's what I'm going to ask you to do. Do you think you could do something like this if I give you simple one like this right now? Okay. All right, then try this. Go ahead, everybody try. Now solve for, what are we solving for? How do you know which one to solve for? Yeah, it says what? T. You got semicolon and T. That's what they mean by solve for T. And what did they say? State the restriction. Go ahead, everybody try. So Chris, what did you do first to solve for T? That's right. I did that too. When you divide by NR, you get, of course, T by itself, don't you? So, oops. So I get T equals 2 PV over NR, right? Now, how many variables do I have on the denominator, Jaemin? 2. So how should we write our restriction? We haven't seen where, when there are 2 variables like this. How do we, anybody have it? Yeah, what do you think, Ali?
N or R, the not equal.
That's right. I wrote them separately, and you should do it that way too. And R cannot be 0 or N cannot be 0. Does that make sense? Why do I use the word or, by the way? Why don't I use the word R can't be 0 and N can't be 0, something like that? Stefan?
Because it can go either way.
Exactly, it could go either way. When I say and, what does that mean? Yeah, both of them has to be 0 at the same time. Is that necessarily true? No. N could be 100, R could be 0. What's 100 times 0? Still 0, so it's undefined. R could be 100, or is that what I did? Or the other way around, okay? You know what I mean? Could they be 0 at the same time? Is that okay? Sure, that's okay, but it doesn't have to be, you see? That's why you have to use the word or. N could be 0 or R could be 0, right? Either one of those could be 0 at this. Yeah, question?
Write like and slash or.
Oh, well, that's a good question. Why don't we write and slash or? Because when you write or, and is included in there. Does that make sense? So you don't have to write it twice.
Yeah.
So, yes.
The way you say it or, it's the statement isn't that one of them equals 0. The statement is that neither of them can equal 0.
Right.
If you say that R is not equal to 0 or N is not equal to 0, you're saying one of them can equal 0.
That's true.
They can't.
Oh. Okay. So, that's very good. This is how we say. This is how we say. Okay. But this is how we say. If we want to say, if what we mean is N can't be 0, right? Or N, this is how we say it. So Leah, I see your point, but this is how we. If we mean that we don't want N to be 0 or R to be 0, they could be at the same time or a different time, right? This is how we decided to say it. Is that okay? I don't know. Yeah, sorry. How would you like to say that? Maybe that's fine. How would you like to say this? What do you think will be more correct? Yeah, it's kind of, I see what you mean, but this is what we've been saying, so this is how we. All right, but you get my point? My bad, guys.
Wait, do we have to write or?
Yes, you do. Okay, you need to write. Leah, would you want to say it this way then? You could, if you want, you could just use comma instead of or. So, and okay, it doesn't even erase now. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you could use that if you want. Okay, so if you don't really like that, but that's fine. I'll take that. Okay. All right. Now, let me ask you this though: is it always like some variable can be 0? Is it? What if I want like 7? Is it possible for the restriction is that x can't be 7 or something? How do you? Is it possible? Is it always like some variable can't be 0 every time? Do you know what I'm talking about? So far, it's whatever the variable we had on the denominator, we don't want it to be 0, right? Is there a time where we want to say, oh, is it always 0 every time? No, it doesn't have to be. It actually could be any numbers you want. Vlad, you have an idea?
Isn't it that it can't be a negative number on the denominator?
No, like negative or positive. You could actually make it so that any sort of number is a restriction. It doesn't have to be 0 every time. So if I want to make the restriction to x can't be 7 or something, is anybody have any idea how we could do that? Do you know what my question is? Right? Is it always that the variable can't be 0? I'm telling you that no, it doesn't have to be. It could be any numbers you want. Can you think about an example where maybe the restriction is that x can't be 7 or something? No one?
Oh.
Yeah?
I don't know. Okay, so like there's like a number and then
Uh-huh.
on the numerator and then like on the bottom it's like 7 minus x.
That's exactly right. Very good. If I have something like this, x minus 7, look, what happens if x is 7? That's very good, okay? So restriction doesn't have to be always something equals 0, cannot equal 0. It could be any numbers you want. What if you wanted 8? Then you could have x minus 8. What if you wanted 10? X minus. What if you wanted like positive 8? I mean negative 8. What if you want negative 8 as your restriction? You would have then x, what? Plus 8, right? That means x can't be negative 8 or something. You know what I mean? You could make it any numbers you want. So don't think that it's always going to be something can be 0. Does that make sense? Yes? Alright. Are we good? Now, I want to get to example 5 because this is the one that's really interesting. So everybody try this one. I would like you to figure, so what are we solving for? R equals AB over A plus B. We're solving for A. How do you know? It says after the colon, semicolon, right? And of course state the restriction. Go ahead, everybody try this one. I like this. I actually put 2 stars on this one because you'll see why in a minute. Okay, try this. So good. Some of you have eaten. What? How is this one? Like, why do I put 2 stars? You think on this one? How is this different than any other ones that we've done so far? Okay. Anybody recognize Ali?
Well, there are 2 A's.
Okay, we got 2 A's. Whereas all the other ones you only had 1 variable to solve for, right? So since they're kind of separated, is it okay to like have A equal to something on the other side where A is included when you solve for A? So if I'm asking you to solve for A, is it okay to have A equals to some expression that contains A in there? No, that's not what we want. If you're solving for A, you can't have A in the other side. You know what I mean? You got to have the A by itself. So here, the A is kind of separated. You see, we don't want that. Also, A is also on the denominator. So do you guys remember what I told you about what to do when the variable is on the denominator? What should we do? How do we bring this up on the numerator? Is it okay to just multiply both sides by the A itself? No, that won't help you, would it? Look at this. If I multiply both sides by A, would it cancel out the A? No, it's the whole thing is adding here. So what do you think I should do first? Raise your hand. This is a key step. To bring the A by Victor?
Multiply A plus B on both sides.
Yes, and multiply both sides by A plus B.
I did that.
You did that? Very good. And the A plus B cancel out. And as you can see, A plus B comes up on the other side as a numerator. And, okay, that's great. What should I do next? Yeah?
Divide by b.
Divide by B. Does that help you? No, it doesn't because you have A over here. You have A over here. If you divide by A and B, you won't get the A by itself. Okay, raise your hand. Anybody? What should I do next? Only one person? Yes. Distribute what? Distribute the R first. That's what I would do. Right? Why do we want to distribute the R? Okay, if I do that, I get AR plus BR equals to AB. This is still not good because A's are separated. You know what I mean? Could I divide by B at this point and get A by itself over here? No, because then you have A over here. That's not good. What do I do next? Alvin? Subtract AR. Why? Victor, why would I want to subtract AR?
So then you could bring the A's onto.
Yeah, so I have at least A's on the same side because that's going to be helpful. But you know, look, I have A here and another A. We want to be able to write A once, not twice. Is there a way to rewrite this AB minus AR using only one A instead of writing A twice like this? Let's see who's been paying attention. This is something we've been. Yeah. Yes. How about Gianni?
A parentheses B minus R.
Lucia, what were we gonna say? Same thing. What property is he using? Because he's correct. That's really good. We're using what property?